canonical turd. Today on the ManSpace. Welcome to the ManSpace podcast. We're your hosts, Doctors Matt Brown and Rob Porter, and clinical therapist Mike Porter. Welcome, Spacemen. You know, there's this part in that book, which I'm going to jump ahead of myself. I'll just spoil this really quick. Spacemen, we're talking today about the book 10% Happier by Dan Harris, which I've read now twice, 2.5 times, because I'm also reading it again in paper copy. Although I'm reading actually it's the same book. It's just kind of more concise and more practical rather than story. It's, is it Mindfulness for Fidgety Skeptics? Same, but it's all his same stuff.
Is his book?
He wrote it?
Yeah, he wrote it. Yeah. Anyway, nope, I just lost it. I practiced mindfulness.
It's so much for mindfulness.
I know.
Where were you on that one?
See, this stuff doesn't even work.
What was I? Dang it. It had to do with
everything from here on out, guys. Just remember the effect it has on you. You'll pause mid-sentence and be like, nope, squirrel.
I have been like more and more lately. I'm like, dude, I can't remember anything. I can remember everything from my clients still. Like, although admittedly, and I shouldn't say this out loud for people who listen, I really never remember their homework that I give them. But I tell them that usually up front, like, I'm probably not going to remember. And even when I do, I don't remember it the way you remember it. So I usually just ask, what'd you work on? Because it doesn't matter. Did you work on something outside of here? If I really need to know what it is, then I'll ask.
It's weird. I've told my clients this too, that before I would remember, like if you asked me, 2 nights from then in a different context, what did you do in this session? I'd be able to recall it. But I think almost as like an adaptive, because I get this question a lot from clients, like how do you just go from one to the next? And like, it's almost like your mind creates this little capsule around that. And it's like, I know I don't need to remember that. And sometimes when it started happening at first, I don't need to remember it outside of the moment, I guess. But like when it started happening at first, it was kind of scary. It's like, oh man, like I'm going back in and I'm trying to recall. But it's like the second I can't remember anything. Right in front of each other again. It's like, boom, there it is.
Yeah, I don't know what really I've told my clients too, like, I don't know what the trigger is for me. Yeah. Like I had somebody that I didn't see for like 5 years, and I only saw him for like 5 or 6 times, and he came back and he's talking about something. It was like, oh yeah, you went to this party, and it was like you went here and you talked to this girl, and it's the red Solo cup. He's like, how do you remember that? I was like, I don't know. But
the images, man.
Yeah, like it comes back into my brain. And so I've never thought about explaining it that way. Like I don't remember it because I don't need to.
Yeah, so and I'm not consciously trying to do that. I think it just, but I do have probably 5 different houses in my head.
Yeah, me too.
When clients are talking, I imagine them in, you live in this house.
Sometimes they live.
Like, I can imagine you having this fight in that house.
Sometimes they live in my house, like one of my old houses, not my current house.
Okay.
And then often I've noticed that whenever I worked with addicts, specifically people coming in for like porn or sex addiction, it was almost always I pictured them in a cement high rise with floor to ceiling windows, which I'm like, is there a metaphor in there? Like you need to be exposed? I don't.
But you're also isolated,
and high, and it's cold and uninviting. I don't know. But it's funny how fast I can pull it up, but then I can't remember. Like, well, do you remember you gave us this? When they say it, like, oh yeah, and then I can remember all the sequencing up to that assignment, but I don't need to remember the assignment,
right? Because
I tell them it's not for me. If it is, I will remember it.
Yeah.
Anyway, because I'm 10% happier. Nope, dude. There's 2 shows you guys should watch.
Okay.
One. I think I maybe mentioned this a couple episodes ago because I was watching. It's called A Night of the 7 Kingdoms. Have I referenced
like K-Night?
Like
Night?
Yeah, it's a prequel to.
K-Night.
Isn't it a prequel to Game of Thrones?
It's not really a prequel, as I understand it. It's set 90 years before Game of Thrones in that same universe, but I don't think there's any tie-in. Is what I've read.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a light comedy. Ish. Like in episode 2, his like the guy he squired for the night he squired for before he died, they show him and you see he's naked, you see his butt, and then he turns around and you see his junk. And it is like, is that prosthetic? Seriously. I told Vegas, like, that cannot be real. It's like, I feel very inadequate right now. But it's a really good show. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just kind of lighthearted, but I don't know. It's good. You guys, it's only on HBO though. The other one was kind of surprising. It's The Burbs on Peacock.
I wondered about that one with like Keke Palmer.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Does it generally follow the same ideas as the movie?
Yes, like actually, yes and no, because it's starting to veer off. They're hour-long episodes, but there's like four characters that are all kind of watching this one house, and this guy, same thing. There's bones kind of buried in the basement is there, and they even have a scene where they're digging up the basement, except instead of exploding the house because it was gas, they just get caught. And they're starting to veer off now. But even in that episode, they come out and they're like, well, maybe they sneak into the house, and then they're whoops. Now they're meeting with him, and she brings out a snack for him, and it's sardines and pretzels, And I was like, oh, that's just like the movie. But it's pretty funny. You guys should watch it. So you're welcome.
Nice.
That's all I have to say about that.
I'm just like so habitual right now. Just come home and
watch Frasier,
do the nighttime thing, and watch Frasier and go to bed.
Frasier's what I do when I'm doing other things, like lifting weights or paperwork. I just want Frasier on because you don't have to pay attention to anything.
Yeah, that's true.
I've been watching Scrubs again.
Getting ready for the reboot that's supposed to
comes
happen
this week.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know, man. I'm a little skeptical.
All I know is the original show is freaking hilarious. So
I just watched an episode of Frasier where Dr. Cox is the plumber.
Oh yeah,
it was also Miles Crane's bully in high school. That's funny. Anyway, well, here we are. I'm going to give us a meditative pause. Did you? Okay. We're just going to jump into this book because there's a part in the book where he talks about he's
sitting there and the lady like,
the 10-day retreat. And he's like, and this one lets out this huge belch. And I was like, wow, I guess that's mindful.
Still silent, technically.
So this book, Spacemen, it was 10% Happier by Dan Harris. As I was saying before, I freaking love this book.
And I'm just looking at the timer.
To have some different feelings.
Like I think we are trimming down the banter, getting in quicker.
Maybe some people are like, it was still 10 minutes of banter. 7 minutes, 6 minutes. I can't remember
when we started recording, but
maybe 6 minutes. So here's why I picked this book and why I like it so much. I was telling Matt this at lunch. So many people that I am now recommending meditation to pretty much every single client because I actually believe that it is a necessary and tangible tool in order to reach better levels of differentiation of self. Like if you're really going to be good in a relationship, you have to be good at meditation, I think, and mindfulness. And I think meditation is the tool to mindfulness.
Yeah.
So I recommend it to everybody as like part of this process, the thing that I'm kind of building this, what I'm calling high performance couples therapy.
Nice.
It's just ripping it straight off of the Fearless Mind. Just taking out tennis. So what I was, the reason I recommend it is because he does a good job of actually saying things that I think at this point, many people know about. But I guess probably back then, because this is the 10th anniversary is what I'm listening to. So probably when it very first came out, some of the stuff would have been newer. Like losing phrases like holding yourself with tenderness and love. And he talks about John Kabat-Zinn and how that's kind of this new thing. I was like, oh, that guy's been around forever though.
Yeah.
Probably not. So I recommend it to people because it's like, hey, if you think this is going to be dumb, try this guy's approach. Like as you listen to the book, for me, I feel like it motivated me towards how do I become a little more mindful? without becoming weird about it.
Yeah.
Because I do think, and I don't think, I should clarify this before I say it. Like
somebody's like, oh man, I'm weird.
I was thinking about Ty Mansfield.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's weird at all, but it's a level, like I've wondered, my sister and I've talked about this, like if I become really mindful, do I stop being funny?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know.
Like he's saying, well, you lose your edge in some way, or
yeah. Which he points out that you don't, but so.
Although he went through a period where he did
lose his edge.
Mm-hmm. It's like the whole point of the last chapter, hide your Zen.
Oh, right.
I do, and I do think that, like, I'll tell people you won't lose it. You'll set it down, and then you'll pick it up with a different motivation afterward, instead of like, as something to protect yourself with. It's now something that just comes from a place of wholeness, and it's like a natural outgrowth of who you are. But
I do think it's interesting in this book that both times now as I've listened to it, I feel a little bit like frustrated at him because he starts asking all the time, like, well, could I be doing this better? Like, what's the next level of this? And it's like, dude, that's not very mindful. Like,
well, that was one of the things I felt like I noticed as I was reading or listening to it was like he would do things and I'd be like, so that part really hasn't sunk in for you yet? Even by the time you're writing this, like it still hasn't sunk in for you yet, huh? Although I do feel like he did a really good job of, like, he was writing this book and he mentioned, right, like he had a lot of, because he's a journalist, he has a lot of recorded stuff where he was able to get and look back at the footage and get word for word kind of what it was. And I thought, but he did a really good job of, it almost felt like he was writing it as he experienced it.
Yeah.
And so that was part of me, is I kept waiting for that part where he would be like, where you would stop seeing the
anxious drive.
The anxious show up, which it never did. But
I don't think and I don't know that it ever does, because he does talk about multiple times that, like, it makes me feel productive. I don't want to lose that part.
Yeah. And he talks a lot about the security of insecurity.
Yeah.
Or security is found in insecurity.
Yeah.
So I guess, like, because one of the things I think about with these books is not necessarily that we just talk about the book, but how do we take out, like, this is what, I think we've said this before. If spacemen aren't going to read this book, which shame on you, because I really think the last two that I've recommended are stellar. Only mine, not your guys's.
No, I'm trying to remember what your last one was.
Buddy System. Oh, my last one was, you didn't read it. You weren't there for it anyway. It was The Destiny of the Republic.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've also read that one twice, and I just bought the paper copy because I loved it so freaking much. But I think I want to be able to pull out, like, this is what I think is most helpful. And maybe that gets down to our tri-tip. So excited about that.
I forgot about that.
I only remember because I edited the podcast last night.
It's good. It's good.
Good. So I guess I could say, what do you feel like was most helpful to you personally? Because this was very helpful to me, although reading it again was helpful to be like, all right, I got to do this.
So, you good if I go, Mike? Because we all know there is that guy sitting listening saying, oh man, I just wanted to hear that Mike guy.
Oh man.
Dude, I love the slight accent Matt gets when he does voices.
I wish you could jump into my dream and see this dude, because he was just so chill in his recliner, kind of like, well, who's this guy?
That's what I feel like whenever Matt does, like, a disappointed person. They always sounds a little bit like a country bumpkin, like, oh man.
So I wanted more of that Mike guy.
I want more of that Mike guy.
I did like the practical stuff. I think I liked his coverage of Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra, because It was so accurate when it came, especially Deepak Chopra. But I've read books by both of them, and he is right. Eckhart Tolle is not a great, in my opinion, writer or speaker.
Yeah,
he's death to listen to. But like some of the, I think he has a lot of like really solid nuggets throughout his writing where it's like, oh man, that stood out. I'm highlighting that, but the whole flow of it's not great. But I recently had a client send me this Reddit thread that kind of pulled some insights together as I was reading that part of the book. So I work with a lot of engineers. You guys have and do probably, right? I think that we've communicated this before, that in some ways we're a bit resistant to like steps and stages and things like that. Like when people say like, but how do I do that? Right.
I am for sure.
Yeah. Because I think it is like, it's important for people to find their own path through it. But I really liked how he articulated it, because it's like, yeah, you listen to this stuff, and if you're not a really intuitive type of a person, this is going to be super frustrating. So one of my clients sent me this Reddit thread that was like an engineer saying, this is how I engineered my way through my panic attacks. And he's using engineer language, but he's also structuring it in a way where he's including like CBT was really helpful for this, right? And then getting in with my biological response to things was really helpful for this. And then the soul work of like Eckhart Tolle stuff was really helpful for this. And then I integrated it in this way, and like hardware, software, like all these different metaphors. And it really stood out to me like, that's a super helpful way. I shouldn't be so anti, don't put this in a box because then you'll just perform it.
Yeah.
I should be more trusting that people know how to put things in a box and turn it into something deeply meaningful for them, versus like take it in a more intuitive way and feel your way or sense your way through it. And don't, do it more from your heart than your head. I think I get sometimes hung up in that. And I think I'm too quick to dismiss people's requests. Like he was like, okay, like what? Yeah, but how do I do this? Right. They're all like giving him these vague answers. I'm like, yeah, I'm probably guilty of that a lot. And
yeah.
So it really helped me think through like bridging the analytical and sensing components of some of my therapy, and like taking clients to their word that no, they're actually looking at how to get better with this. It's not just how do I check this box, I can relieve my anxiety, if that makes sense.
I think what's interesting about it though is like, when he'd ask these things and people are like, take a deep breath, and he's like, that's it. And part of me is like, well, they were telling you to some degree, like, this is how you do it on a regular basis. So I think it was Eckhart Tolle who's like, and you breathe in the moment or whatever. He's like, so I take a breath. And
I do think that kind of stuff, I think is, I was telling another client about this, the book, The Untethered Soul. Like for me, this 10% Happier book to you is like, that book is this for me. Like I've read it several times, and but it is kind of like the narrator for the first book isn't the author.
Yeah.
And the tone that he uses to communicate some of these ideas,
right?
It's like, just release it. Just let it go. It's easy. It's like, well, it's kind of not, and I don't even know what you're talking about, right? And so I think sometimes people communicate from a place of already having it figured out and saying, this is what it looks like over here. And it's like, well, how'd you get there? It's like, well, I got here. I arrived.
Let it go. I do think that's kind of what I was thinking. And I think it just takes a little more explanation. Like sometimes I feel like because I know this stuff already, I assume that everybody knows what I know to this point.
Yeah.
So when he's saying, how do I do this? Why didn't one of them just turn and say, start a daily regimen of meditation every single day for at least this much. Yeah. And then during the day, take small breaths. And as you do this, it will lead to this. Instead of saying, take a deep breath.
I think for those bigger people though, like as I was reading it, I was thinking about this because he does highlight, they are people who have this backstory of how their life is falling apart, and then this magical thing happened. And so they have to hold that kind of mystical.
That's it.
If I told you the recipe, then you wouldn't come to me anymore. But whereas the psychiatrist, psychologist he went to is kind of like, I don't know, man, we're the Jubus. We did this.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I think
That's,
he gave more of like how it happened.
I think that's one of the things I actually appreciate about this book, and something that was helpful to me was it felt like taking something that has been, you know, we've talked multiple times about meditation. I remember going to one where it was like, and now just take a step and see what that feels like. And I was like, I'm going to just step on out of this door because this blows. And the whole like, and you just be kind to yourself. I was like, what the crap does that mean? Like, hey, Rob, you look nice in those pants, you know, like, so, but this felt like taking something and just speaking it. He says many times, like speaking it to you, like, oh, that guy's a normal dude.
Yeah.
I think it was Mark Epstein, where he's like, he's a normal dude. And he's like, I can get behind this. And even finding out with Buddhism, it's like, no, I just take the tenets. I don't, originally it was just kind of a way of thinking.
And a way of thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. And then people grabbed onto it and almost made it a religion, but it's not. It's just a way of thinking. So you can do that and still be a Jew. Hence the Jew. So those people listening who don't know what Matt said,
is.
Jubu is a Jewish Buddhist. Matt's not just racist in some way. Jubu. He uses the term. But so I feel like it's very helpful. And that's what I think I recognize is just trying to translate. Well, you're talking with engineers. I've recognized when they say it doesn't make sense to me she's doing this. And I will kind of just take a minute to say, let's just talk about even because my understanding sometimes even of the brain, I think, is very basic in its understanding, but just say, let's just talk about the way the brain works. And when you understand that, I think it will make more sense to an engineering mind to say, because the brain does this and this, it will do this. And he's like, and usually like, okay, but I need someone to tell me that part. So like meditation is like, if you can slow your brain down and here's these things you do, which I always add on, I do add on, it's a muscle building exercise. So don't do it once and feel like, well, I don't feel any better.
No, he did a good job of highlighting that, right? The point is like reps, right? Like get distracted, come back, get distracted, come back. And if you do more of that in a meditation session, that's even better, right?
And that's, I've wondered before, like, I thought I must have heard this from somewhere before him, because I've been saying this to clients for a long time too. And I'm positive I did not come up with it, but that the worst thing you could do with meditation is tell yourself to clear your mind, because it's not possible.
Not going to happen.
And I don't know.
No, there was another book that was giving kind of more step by step, how to do meditation. And she was saying one of the gurus was like trying to be kind to himself. Like he said, don't judge the drift, right? So he's trying to be kind to himself. So in her meditation, it's like every time you recognize a thought, just say thinking, and then come back. But he had this like thinking good, buddy. It's just like, it's all right, man.
Well, that's another thing to me I think is really valuable is the idea of which it's the rain, and I always forget the rain.
Recognize, accept,
investigate, and
nothing,
and do nothing about it.
Yeah.
But like those kinds of things, just to recognize, and I tell clients all the time, and I tell myself, like, that's an anxious thought. Because otherwise you just run down these things. And even saying it, just being able to say it quietly out loud to yourself, I think makes a huge difference. To say out loud, like, that's an anxious thought, instead of trying to compete with an anxious thought by saying it's an anxious thought. Hearing it does something for our brains, but he doesn't necessarily say that per se. But I just, to me, I think the most valuable thing and what was so helpful was it felt like, okay, I can see how meditation would look for a normal person. I know I'll never reach Deepak Chopra status, even in terms of my meditation. And there's a part of me, honestly, and he mentioned this too, when you see Deepak walking down the street, he's like, I mean, is this guy really doing this? And there's a part of me that's like, I don't trust anything anymore. Just like he highlights the people who are religious leaders, it turns out like, whoops, like, I'm like, I don't trust it. This is all just for making money, like, but he's actually, he mentions, I think in the book, that he quit. He's not doing newscasting anymore. He's basically just doing this mindfulness thing full time. And he's got an app. I downloaded it last week, but I have not actually used it yet, called just 10%, I think, or 10% happier, but it's a meditation thing. And and he's got like a meditation bus he drives around in now. I just like that he really buys into it. Like, this is really valuable. And also his wife, as he points out in the book, is very attractive. I looked her up. So that was helpful to me too. Mike?
I think one of the things that really stood out to me was, like, he did it when he talked about his experience in therapy with the psychiatrist. He talked about being disappointed because he just kept waiting for this Dr. Bot, I think was his name, or something like that. Mm-hmm. Just kept waiting for him to, like, kind of wrap it all in a nice little bow. Be like, here's the thing. This is the problem you have. And I feel like he kept looking for it with the meditation stuff too. So, but but what's the thing?
Yeah.
What's the thing? What's the thing? And I think, as people, we do that, right? Like, how many times have we worked with someone who, when they want to understand, like, a spouse's infidelity, or sometimes their own infidelity, or they want to understand this thing, and we're like, well, what was going on? And they're like, well, like, I was really stressed and got this going on. It's like, okay, well, it was probably that. I'm like, well, that doesn't seem like enough to justify going and doing this. And it's like, well, that on its own is not enough. You're right. But you're making the mistake of thinking one thing led you to commit adultery. One thing did not lead you to commit adultery. 50 did. Just like with him, it wasn't one thing that triggered his immense depression. It was a bunch of things.
Yeah.
And with the meditation, it's not going to be one thing that changes your life with meditation. It's going to be all of the little things, which is, to me, as I was listening to it, and he would tell these stories, and the people are like, well, yeah, just keep doing that. And it's like, right, it's the little things. It's not like we have this habit as people of looking for what's the thing? There's not a thing. It's little things. Do a bunch of little things and see what difference it makes. Do all of these, he's talking about these little things, about just taking that moment when you're doing something and pausing and just take a minute and just pause. And I think, right, that's a little thing. That's not something that takes a half hour. It's not something that you're just sitting there for like a minute, just focusing on your breath for a minute. And so to me, that was, especially because, like, a lot of the stuff he talked about with therapy, with meditation, were all things that I had thought. Like, my experience, like, I think we've talked about it on here. My experience with meditation was what Senor Turner, do you remember him? Mr. Turner from Keno Junior High. He was the Spanish teacher.
Huh.
Did you meditate in junior high?
So on Fridays, he used to do meditation day.
Maybe I he Mr. would Turner. Anyway, go ahead.
I don't know who you would like. So Mrs. Warner was there my 9th grade year, but she died mid-year. Yeah. So I don't know who came in and took her place. But
for a while, I just didn't give a crap.
He was the only legitimate Spanish teacher for a bit. But on Fridays, he used to come in and he would play these, like, meditation tapes. And he would have us all find a spot on the floor, and we would all lay down, and he would turn out the lights, which is hilarious that you're going to do that with a bunch of 9th graders, or 7th and 8th graders, but whatever. So he would do it, and then he would play this cassette, and it would be one of those, like, imagine you're floating in a hot air balloon high above, but like in the voice that Harris talks about as being, like, so annoying. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Imagine you're in a hot air balloon floating high above the earth.
Above the sky.
Oh my gosh.
Too much S.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like, this is the stupidest thing ever. And then it was that, like, I always ran into the same issue of people talk about clearing their mind. Like, what the crap are they talking about? My brain doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, like, apparently I can't do it. Apparently I'm one of the people that is not built for meditation. And so hearing him talk about some of those, and that's the thing, like, hearing some of those things, and then hearing, like, his own experience with it, I was like, oh, right. And that was, like, the first time I did meditation, we did it through Headspace.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hilarious because in the first meditation, he goes, it was on Netflix we were watching, but he goes, in the first episode, he's like, one of the mistakes people make is they think that you need a clear mind. He goes, it's not about not having thoughts. It's about not chasing the thoughts. He's like, you can't chase the thought. You just have to acknowledge it as a thought and let it go. And I remember the first time, because at the end of those episodes, they take you on he does guided meditation with you. And I'm sitting there and I'm doing the stuff he's talking about. And the next thing I know, I'm thinking about whatever I'm thinking about. And all of a sudden he goes, yeah, your mind might be wandering right now. And he goes, just focus on the breath. Just, feel your hand move up and down as it rests on your stomach and whatever. And I was just like, it's like he's in my head. But that was one of for me, the most helpful things was just that recognition of, right, there's an actual expectation that you're going to have the clear mind. And while he was interesting how much he pushed against the spiritual side of it.
Dan Harris?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, agnostic, okay, it's fine. To me, there's an obvious spiritual side to all of this, but he almost seemed to, I don't know. So, I guess my point there is there's things that he was like, yeah, I don't think that ever happens. I was like, well, you don't, because you don't buy into the spiritual side of things.
Yeah,
I think some of the stuff is possible, but the way that he framed it all in just no, but here's what it looks like practically. And just the constant reminder from so many people that he talked to that they're just like, no, that you're doing it.
Yeah,
you becoming aware of the thought is mindfulness. Congratulations, you've done it. It will get deeper. It'll get, more pronounced, but that's it. That's exactly what you should be doing. And so all of just that kind of normalization was very beneficial for me.
I think it's kind of funny because I was just thinking through there, I talk about, like I said, I mention it to, I think, every client, and I tell them, you're going to roll your eyes at this because it sounds like, oh, did you learn that from your very first therapy book? But because I think it's so pivotal to everything else, then it's like, well, I can't really expect you to be aware of what you're doing when you're fighting if you can't be aware of what you're doing when you're sitting by yourself. But I just liked so much how normalizing this book was. And his stories are funny. He writes well. And just he reads it well. And it was just an entertaining book. But
he does have a slightly grating voice.
Yeah, a little bit,
which was super hilarious. Was feedback as soon as you shared that feedback? Yeah, as soon as you said that, I was like, I mean, it's a little grating. And I had wondered at one point before I heard that part, how much is it grating to me because I'm listening to it at double speed? Would it be this grating if I were on normal speed? So then when he said it, I was like, oh, so apparently it is just grating. And I didn't think it was it was by far not the most grating voice I've heard.
No.
I've had books where I'm like, oh, I can't even keep listening to this. Your voice is so distracting, I can't. But
yeah, to me, it just feels like he's talking.
Right.
He's just a friend, right?
He doesn't have a James Earl Jones or a Morgan Freeman type voice that's soothing and welcoming.
He has a newscaster's cadence. Which I thought was interesting.
Which he makes, and he makes fun of.
Yeah. I will say, Mike, you mentioned, and I'll mention at the end for a takeaway for people, the four apps that I
tri-tip.
Oh yeah, during the tri-tip that I mentioned as these are ones I think are good apps to use, but there's a difference between two apps in particular. The main, kind of the big two apps are Calm and Headspace. Headspace is just this British dude, and he just talks to you like a normal dude.
Yeah.
And you can pick other speakers as you can in Calm.
Yeah.
But Calm, the lady who runs that, man, her stuff all sounds like this. Although I will say she had a really helpful, one of the daily calms was and I've used this with a number of clients too. Mike, when you're talking about, it's just a thought that's going to pass by. She talks about imagining a train you're standing on a cliff and you can see a train going by. Yeah, the thought train, and it's like, and then this thought, it all just goes by. This one's a happy thought, this one's a sad thought, but it just moves past. And you're not going to hold on to that car. You're just going to watch the train go past.
Yeah.
Andy, that's the Headspace guy.
Yeah.
The British guy. He does something similar in that first one. He's like, imagine you're sitting on a freeway.
Yeah.
And he's like, if you try to focus on one car and chase it, he goes, one, you're never going to catch it because you're on foot and they're in a car. He's like, so you'll chase it as far as you can, but eventually you'll just exhausted and not be able to have done anything. And he said, the alternative, he said, you just sit and you just watch all the cars. Like, they're all pretty much equal. They're all just cars passing by. And he's like, that's what your thoughts are. They're just passing. Like, just watch them pass. It's fine. Yeah. So yeah, he does something very similar, I think, on Headspace.
I feel the need to give a shout out to the original. Before Headspace, before Calm, there were like there was this app. I can't remember the name of the app, but each app was specific. Like Deep Sleep with, or Calm with, but I can't remember his first name. I think it was Robert Johnson, and it was a Scottish guy.
Oh,
Jason introduced us to it.
Oh,
and so I remember the first time I was teaching practicum, which, for those who don't know, practicum is where, as a student, you see clients and people watch behind the two-way mirror, and so it was the first year group of practicum students, so very first clients they were going to see, and we were just calling to set up appointments, and everybody was like super nervous. So I was like, okay, we're going to do a meditation, and I was going to use the audio from that. So I was kind of getting them grounded. I was like, okay, everybody close your eyes. I'm just going to pull Mr. Johnson out of my pocket.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
I didn't even catch it until I said it, and I was like, it's over. Everybody's cracking up, and I'm like, okay, let's reset. His name is Dr. Robert Johnson.
Mr. Johnson out of my pocket. That's like Frasier. Oh, your glockenspiel is sprung to life. Well, here's what I was thinking before we get into tri-tip. I was just going to explain, because and you guys can add in the way you might describe this, because I know, Matt, you do meditations with clients sometimes in session, kind of guided imagery, right?
Yeah.
When clients ask me, like, what do I do? I usually say get an app, because it's easier to have somebody else whispering in your ear. Now do this. You, like what you're pointing out, Mike, like you might have gone off, so just come back over here. Sometimes it's harder, I think, to catch yourself in the beginning. But I usually tell people, and all these apps will do about the same thing. Like, you just start focusing on, I start by focusing on my breathing. I take a few deep breaths, and then I move into, as I'm taking some deep breaths, usually either before or sometimes in the middle of, I'll just close my eyes because I like mine closed, but a lot of people will keep them open. I've done both. I just prefer mine closed. Yeah. And then I start to do, I move into sound, like what can I hear going on around me? And I could do that one. I can stay in that space for a long time. I don't know why that space for me is really helpful to just, especially that's why I like having a ticking clock in my office, because it's like, okay, I can always go back to that thing. And then it'll sometimes move into, think of somebody that you love and you care about, and then you well wish them. Meta. That's not my favorite. So even as Dan describes it, I was like, yeah, me too, man. It's not my favorite.
Yeah.
But then, and then the focus is, as Dan points out many times in his book, is that, like, it is meditation to get off track and come back, because all you're doing is constantly training your brain. Hey, come back over here, come back over here, come back over here. Yeah. There will be times, and when, he talks about when he reaches that kind of, not Zen state, but that state where he's kind of like, all he's noticing, he's letting his mind kind of skim across the surface of different things he's hearing and paying attention to. And that's not bad either. You're just keeping your focus in places. And sometimes in my meditations, and this is something I got from one of the meditations I listened to, it's like, once you get into a space where you're kind of breathing and you've kind of wandered off, they'll say, like, let your mind wander off now, wherever it wants to go. And then they'll usually bring you back to your breathing. And then you'll go back to, at least this is another thing, then I'll go back to paying attention to like the noises around me. And then I'll take a couple more deep breaths and I'll open my eyes. So meditation is not like, there's no rocket science to it. You're just sitting there quietly by yourself. And you do not, just to clarify, because everybody asks me this too, you do not need to sit in like the lotus position. I never have.
I've tried, and it feels really good at first because I'm stretching, but I just do it in my chair because like that little meditation cushion back there.
Oh yeah.
I was trying that because I was doing some stuff afterward, just trying to kind of be present with the tree outside my office. And but yeah, man, that lotus position really wreaks havoc on a therapist's hips.
Yeah, that's like, if you're flexible like that, go for it. But for me, it's just a total distraction. The most helpful thing for me is, and Dan Harris mentioned this, and a lot of people do in their meditations, is just sit in a position where it doesn't have to be this way, but they're like your feet flat on the floor and your spine relatively straight.
Yeah.
I've done laying down, but I fall asleep real quick. I can fall asleep sitting up too in the middle of meditation, which is like, maybe I need to sleep more and then do my meditation. Because I do have clients that will ask me, there's two things that will often come up when I'm talking with clients and I say to meditate. And they're like, oh, so like taking naps or prayer. And I'll say, those are both good, but they're not meditation. Prayer can be meditative. But for most of us, honestly, prayer is like a checklist of things.
Yeah.
My wife has done things which I think I've mentioned on here before, where she's done some things that are like, she does a meditative practice to get into a space so that her prayer is more meaningful.
Yeah.
And I think that's a thing that can happen, but I think, no, it's not the same thing as actually trying to control where your brain is going and trying to be aware of what's going on for yourself. Yeah. So I do tell people to start meditating every day, just for 3 to 5 minutes. And I will say this before we get into try tips. Unless you guys don't want to get there, I have been working on meditation for a long time. And I think I'm going to use this as after I have a trip I'm going on this weekend, but after that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start meditating every day and reporting back, like, am I actually meditating every day? I will say too, that in order to be, I think, deliberate and focused about this, for anybody who wants to start meditating, it has to be something you put in your schedule, on your calendar, I think, consistently. At least for me, it can't be something that's like, I need to remember to meditate today. It has to be like, it's 6 a.m. I'm meditating first, or it's 6 p.m. I need to go meditate, and have a reminder set, because otherwise you won't do it, because you'll feel like, I'm feeling pretty good, I don't think I need to meditate. So that was just
it's not like an as needed
thing. So I just wanted to throw that out there a little bit to say, hey, this is what meditation really probably, at least at a very basic level, which is my understanding still of meditation, is like, it's just kind of this, like it's not what you think it is. There's no chanting in it. There are some meditations that have chanting, but for most people, that's not what you're doing. And I think I've also mentioned, I also like using sound meditations. So like Apple Music will do ones where it's just like the meditation bowls and they don't talk at all. I don't know what it is about those things.
Yeah, I've got a YouTube thing like that. And that's all I use. Yeah.
And I do have one person I worked with who said that their form of meditation was to listen to specifically, no, it was Pink Floyd.
Hey, I could see that.
And they would just they'd listen, they'd put headphones on with noise canceling, and they would just sit quietly and listen to the full album. I'm like, cool. That's the same. It's the same idea. That works. Yeah. Like, you're staying focused. You're training your brain into this space.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, you think meditation is not for you, I'm telling you it is. Now, I still have my tip of my try tip, but what are your guys's? Unless you want to add something else before
last.
I'll tip last. Oh, and then we got to get to our book, but
yeah, Mike. I mean, they really want you.
Yeah, oh man, I thought it was gonna be that Mike guy. I like the way it's the Mike guy. That Mike guy.
Am I tipping? Is that?
Yes, man, you're tipping.
Sorry.
The man.
By the way, next time we go out to dinner together, whenever that is, I think we need to leave a try tip.
Oh,
just write that on there. Try tip.
Try tip. No, I think for me the takeaway, Jenna and I were shifting some closets at church because I don't know, she needed to shift some closets. And at one point she came and she said, "Hey, I think I need your brain to help me organize this closet." And I looked at what she had, and some of it was very, it was like in bins and whatever. And then some of it was just like random crap. And I looked at her and I was like, all right, well, I got to go finish in there. And I said, I'll tell you this, it's going to be messier than you think. And she was just like, what? And I said, you're not going to fit all this as cleanly as you want to fit it. It's going to be messy. And she goes, oh, okay, that's all I need. Okay, I got it. And she had to organize because she just had to let go of this idea that, right, like here's this preconceived outcome I have. She had to let go of that idea and just say, yeah, it's going to be done. It'll be done and it'll be as organized as I can get it given what I'm dealing with. And I think my point there and my takeaway here is, he talked a couple of times in the book about kind of focusing on the process. And I think there's a lot to be said for the process of meditation as opposed to focusing on the outcome of meditation. One, if you focus on the outcome, you're going to be disappointed if it doesn't happen as fast as for some reason you expect it should. But and then the other, and this is nope, I lost it. Man, I need ADHD meds.
Episode.
No,
on it. Good job.
It just the idea of it's okay if you don't nail it the first time. It's okay if it feels very scripted the first time. You would never expect your child to be perfect at something the first time they've learned it. You should not expect that of yourself as you're tackling meditation. Like, let go of the idea that it's supposed to feel a certain way. Let go of the idea that it's supposed to look a certain way. Find the thing that works for you and just, it's one of those, trust that at some point you'll start to see the 10% happier. But in the initial, just focus on the process of it, right? If nothing else, it's a 3 to 5 minute break in your day where for 3 to 5 minutes, you don't have any responsibilities except to sit there and let your thoughts be your thoughts.
I will.
There's my tip.
I will add to that just slightly because not add to it, but like,
totally rearrange it and be like, Mike, you said crappy.
He's adding a false tip to your tip.
It's the Dan Harris prosthetic. It's the Dan Harris says, basically, and this may be in his other book, but he says, if you sit down to do it, you just succeeded. Like, there is no, I wasn't successful. It's like, did you sit down to do it? Then you were successful. That's that's what meditation is. Sit down to do this. So I just wanted to throw that in as part of that.
Yeah.
Matt, tip.
Mike, here's my tip extender. I'm going to build off of yours.
Tip extender, that's better.
Ooh.
So when you were talking about the secular or like the pushback on the spiritual side, I don't even think you need that. I mean, I think it's really helpful for people that is that's their belief, but you can still accomplish the same thing if you just
regardless
look
of
at some like neuroscience research. There's this book that I just read called The Immortal Mind by Michael Egner. Anyway, he's a neurosurgeon, and a lot of these people that write books about stuff like this will say, I was not a believer and then, had these experiences. So skip that part if that doesn't mean anything to you. But some of the research that he cites and other people cite, like there is something like other than the mortal body that has been measured, has been documented, and so whatever you call that, I think getting into the right position before getting into some practices is really helpful. So Mike Singer talks about it. he calls it the seat of consciousness. Eckhart Tolle called it the watcher, right? You have like the thinker and the watcher. And I think just recognizing that any way that you can externalize, you are not your thoughts, right? You are not your feelings. So the second question is, who are you, right? You're the one observer. And so that level of separation allows you to get more to base in the meditation where you're saying, I'm noticing that thought, right? And I think we just say that sometimes for people where the separation is too, maybe to your point about differentiation, if you can't differentiate from yourself, you're going to do it in a relationship. If I can't separate out and say, like, that's a thought that's coming, whether I visualize it as a screen or whatever, or if I view myself as somebody who's experiencing that, hearing that, right? It's much easier to go from that to, there's a thought, now I'm going to direct my focus somewhere else. And that might be to a sensation in my body or, to stillness. And then I'm going to, drift my focus back to a thought that popped up and then come back. I think when you really get a sense of who you actually are, this becomes much easier. It's like I'm experiencing all these things. Michael Singer talked about, he's kind of like, well, what's it like? Yeah. It's like, kind of sucks when like all these anxious thoughts are like, you feel like you're churned up by them, but you can step back from it and observe it, shift your focus. And I found that to be like most of the mind tools and things like that we use, it's like you're trying to solve the problem from the very place that it exists instead of stepping back and looking at it, or just, other ways of talking about it, or kind of just go meta to the issue, right? Like step back from it. I think just having that sense within you makes a lot of this, it makes it easier to practice meditation in the way that we're talking about, knowing who you are.
That's interesting. That one I feel like is a little bit circular, because I feel like the more we know who we are, the easier it becomes to meditate, and it becomes easier to meditate. It builds on itself. My two, I guess we'll say there are two tips. One is, so now it's a quad tip. One is actually, actually only one's a tip. The other one's like, here's some resources. One is actually just that for those people who still feel skeptical about this, all that we're really talking about with meditation and mindfulness is to become more aware and more present. There's nothing bad or frou-frou about any of that. Like, it's just saying, wouldn't it be good to be more aware of what's actually happening in your brain and body? If for dudes who think it's like, I don't feel that, I don't feel any sadness or whatever, it's like, then you're broken. Your brain is broken. Yeah, yes, you do. Everyone, unless your brain is broken, it's making the feeling. So it'd be good to be aware of it and not be driven by it like you are. That's like, I don't feel that, I'm just pissed all the time. Yeah. That's because you feel all the other stuff. So all we're talking about really is awareness. So if you can couch this in whatever makes it most palatable to invest in it, then that's what we're looking for, is just find a way to invest in this. Mm-hmm. The second tip, it's not really a tip, it's resources, are the 4 apps that I tell people. We've already mentioned 2 of them that do cost. Calm and Headspace.
The way you said that sounded like Rammstein for a second. Do cost.
They do cost money there. Calm and Headspace. And actually, a lot of people that I've talked to will get one of those apps for free from the company they work for. Like Amazon, I think it's like a perk. Yeah, because all these companies started realizing, hey, if our clients are more calmed down, then this is better for them.
Well, and a lot of like Headspace, I would assume they still do, will give it significantly discounted to students.
Probably.
Like I can't remember. Like, would you know off the top of your head what Headspace costs like a year?
I want to say it's 112 or 89. I can't remember.
Yeah, I feel like it's like $10 a year if you're a student.
Oh, okay.
Which all you need is a student email address, right? Yeah, so if you have,
be honest, because that's a bad way to start off your mindfulness. If it's like,
it is a bad way to start off your mindfulness is by borrowing someone else's. But If you have, right, like if
well,
you are a student, there's
absolutely.
There's ways to do it for sure.
Yeah, look into that if that's an issue. The other two that I recommend, like I said, Calm has lots of celebrities on it. Matthew McConaughey can read you a bedtime story. So can LeBron James, but I can't stand the main woman. Headspace, some of the user interface is not my favorite, but I prefer the guy's meditation more. The other two that are actually either have a cost or are free. One is free all the time. It's called Healthy Minds Project. It was done by the University of Wisconsin, I think. And it's a great app and it's free of charge. The other one is Dan Harris's 10% Happier, which I cannot say yet that I've used. I've downloaded it and have meant to use it, but I used Headspace again this week and not that one. But that one does have a cost. Like you can donate at certain levels, like $100 a year, $500 a year, because it's kind of like it's like help us move this meditation thing forward. It also says specifically if cost is an issue, just
so it's
email
like
us.
Joining a cult.
Yes, and get 3 people below you, and then it's cheaper.
The
for
cult
you.
of Dan.
So it does say that if cost is an issue, just email them and they'll give it to you for free because they don't want cost to be a barrier to people doing this. So if it really,
but again, if
be
you're
honest.
engaging in mindfulness, be honest.
Right. So don't just be like, I mean, I got to pay for my $250 cable bill, so I can't afford this. It's like, I mean, let's make some priority shifts. But if it really is an issue, but you want to get involved in it, then reach out and figure it out. So those are 4 that I suggest because people usually need a place to start. And then practice every day for at least 5 minutes. And then namaste.
All right.
Wait, do we have a book?
That's what I'm saying.
That's This book is going to feel a little redundant given our topic today.
Sweet.
But I don't know, I don't remember when I bought it actually. But I wanted so we have Mindspace app or Headspace app, I mean.
That's a new one.
Yeah, right. And like you mentioned, its user interface is not great, and it's true. I don't feel like I have a real handle on like how to do this meditation thing, right? Mm-hmm. And Jenner's like, oh, they have ones that are like, to kind of get you going and into a daily routine. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't find it anytime I go into the freaking app. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, but every time they're like, well, do you want it for this? Or do you want it for this? Or do you want it for this? And I'm like, I freaking just want to meditate. So I got kind of irritated, and I chat GPT'd best books to learn meditation.
Oh,
and this was the book that came up.
Mindfulness for Beginners. Oh,
The Miracle of Mindfulness.
I love that name.
Written by Thich Nhat Hanh. I don't know. There he is in the back. You can see him.
He's got a number of books.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently he's, at least according to ChatGPT, one of the leading experts, I guess, on mindfulness and meditation.
Sweet. Well, we're just building.
And so that's the book.
We're going to be so mindful.
Introduction to the practice of meditation.
We're going to blow people's minds. We're just going to have episodes where Matt's just ding a little bell, ding, and that's it. And it'll be us for an hour, and it'll be Mike breathing like, and then periodically I'll be like, hey guys, remember how I'm here? I'm funny. Remember, look at me.
Oh man, we just want more of that Mike guy.
Oh man. All right. So we're saying that's in about a month. Spring breakish time. We're going to be talking a little more mindfulness. And by then I will be meditating every day. Namaste.
Me too. That's my hope.
All right. Well then, Spacemen, you have it. The Miracle of Mindfulness?
The Miracle of Mindfulness, an introduction to the practice of meditation.
Boom. So then read it. Come back next time and catch us on the ManSpace. Gale Force Inanity.